Jayant, Chaitanya, Rohit, congratulations. I'm told that you are the first SaaS unicorn of 2022, and we start the new year with third wave of pandemic. But these are the news, these are the stories, these are the information that gives us all hope, excitement, and a belief in the growth of the startup economy that India is witnessing. Congratulations to all of you. And today I will begin our conversation not straight with questions, but some words that have been playing in my mind and I'm sure everyone's mind. And I want to understand from three of you, what does it mean to you? What does unicorn, when we say unicorn, what does it mean to you?
I think it's a milestone to celebrate, Shradha, and get on with work. I think that's that's what it means to us. So 1 week of celebration and then get on with work.
Yeah, no, beautiful. So unicorn, milestone, not a destination. Brilliant. What does, when I say Hyderabad, what does it bring for you? What does it mean?
For me, it is pure love. Like I was born and brought up here, Shradha. So Hyderabad is city of love. But all of us have roots here, and all of us have families here. So it keeps us connected, and it's a city with great quality of life. So
yeah, but with entrepreneurs like you who are also bringing Hyderabad as on the national map when it comes to building large tech businesses. Because we've seen, they're brilliant entrepreneurs, but now we are seeing brilliant outcomes also coming, new age outcomes. We, of course, have very big businesses there, but you guys are making it happen. And Darwinbox, for everyone, I'm being told, is the third unicorn from Hyderabad, from Telangana. The other word I want to ask, what does ambition mean?
Ambition, I think, is world domination for us. Building from Asia for the world is ambition for us. But yeah, Jayant, Chaitanya, if you want to add in terms of definition, I think it's very personal as a choice of the word.
I think, Shradha, I think when we started, for me, at least the unicorn was validation, right? I think that the problem we solve is a very, very important one.
Yeah.
It deserves to be solved well for any company to be successful, I think. So it's a big validation of that. It's also a validation of the team. And so many people came together for an outcome. Sometimes outcomes are not under our control, but for this outcome to happen, so many people came together. So it's a validation of all the great work that got put together.
Yeah, no, yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
Maybe adding that, for me, honestly, unicorn is a responsibility for me. So we are not a public market. So private market, unicorn and some valuation, it only represents confidence of the market and investors as a whole in terms of your potential. It is just a representation of how much they believe in your potential. So it is what you need to prove, not what is ahead of you, not what you've already achieved.
But it's such a phenomenal answer that we all can look up to. Is between three of you, you've said milestone, validation, and responsibility. So congratulations to three of you. Congratulations to Darwinbox for being a unicorn today. And that brings me to my first question. You guys started in 2015 with 30 lakhs, and then cumulatively you've raised $110 million, and today you're a unicorn. Tell us, what does this journey mean? What has it meant? What has it meant to get here?
Yeah, I think as an experience, Shradha, it's quite humbling, right? As a journey, right? And because we set out to build something for enterprises, right from day one, right? And it was humbling to look at the customers, take that bets on us at different stages of the journey, right? Like, I mean, they could have just said Tukone, right? Like, because this is a hardcore central system that every employee in the organization uses, and still customers took the bet on us. And at every stage, there was a larger customer who was taking the bet on us, not just in India, but in the rest of Asia as well. So in that terms, I think humbling to get that set of customers that we got, humbling to get set of employees join us at very early stages, right? These are folks who left very lucrative careers and took a bet on the belief and the purpose of Darwinbox. And when we look back, I think that changed the course of our journey as well, the kind of people we've got on board. And the investors and advisors we have, I think their backing again is humbling, right? Like, and I think, of course, right, luck plays a big part of any journey. And I think getting all these three at the right times for us was quite humbling. Yeah, I think that's the overwhelming emotion when I think of the last 6 years. But I think a lot more to go, right? I think just a milestone, as I said. Yeah, that's what.
Jayant, I want you to add over here. I was just speaking to someone that I'll be talking to you guys, and not that everyone should know, but they said, "Oh, Darwinbox, is it an Indian company? And what do they do?" And so, before you answer this question of 30 lakhs to a unicorn journey, tell everyone watching what is Darwinbox.
So Darwinbox is a employee lifecycle management system that's targeted at large companies. So we provide software to manage the HR function for a company that manages something called the employee lifecycle, right? So from planning, budgeting, recruitment, onboarding to solving several strategic parts of HR. How do you retain better? How do you manage your talent better? How do you plan for succession? How do you account for performance and all these things? So software for doing this across the life cycle. And the focus for us, and we operate in India, we operate in Southeast Asia, and we operate in the Middle East. We have ambitions of launching into the US in 2022. And typically, the ideal Darwinbox customer is a large. So mid-market and large is the segment that we go after.
And tell me, what has this journey meant to you the last 6, now 7 years, starting 7 years?
Starting 7 years, Shradha, I think one, like I said, and I mentioned this earlier about the problem itself. And I remember one of our initial hypotheses, right? And this was one of our early investors was Mr. Mohandas Pai. And I remember meeting him for the first time, and when he's somebody that understands HR really, really well. And when we met him, one of the first things that he said is, at least, oh, you guys are building something in the HR space. Will you at least build something that is finally relevant for the employee? That's a poor fellow called the employee. At least you guys build for it. And I think, and where our thoughts and our vision aligned was there, right? And a lot of HR systems in the past, Shradha, were built for maybe the IT function. But then you realize that ours is one of those few systems that touches everybody in the company, from the CEO, from the promoter, right down to the last employee on the ground, right? And a measure of success is what kind of problems are you solving for the last mile? I mean, are you making him happy, etc. Right? So building a system that puts squarely an employee at the center was our focus from the beginning. And it is nice to see, and that is the hypothesis with which we went to market. Okay, the product pillar is going to be this, making it super friendly for the employee. And it is nice to see that hypothesis play out. And remember, like I said, the consequence of playing in the enterprise space is that you have legacy entrenched competition to deal with that have been around for like a very, very long time, for the last 30, 40 years. Ours is a category that's been around for the last 30, 40 years. And very large entrenched competition that in the beginning, some of our mentors said, are you guys sure you want to go against them? These are guys that have the balance sheets the size of some African country GDPs, and you want to headbutt them. So, but this hypothesis that we'll build for putting an employee at the center, it's glad to see that hypothesis play out and companies embracing that philosophy to work with us. So I think that is very gratifying, to say the least.
Yeah. Chaitanya, do you want to add?
Yeah. So, Shradha, I mean, I echo what Jayant said. So obviously, it all looks very surreal from where we started and where we came to, because the sort of industry or sector that we picked, honestly, there was nothing new. It's been there for quite some time. But obviously, we believed in certain fundamental principles, one of them being keeping employee at the center and build a system around that. So what it means is, great user experience, great mobile experience, and then a great, analytics experience, etc. We thought, there are still certain problems that can be solved while it is existing category for quite some time. So that's a hypothesis. And those are the first principles we believed in, coupled with obviously everything, boils down to execution. A lot boils down to execution than, idea itself. So thankfully, like Rohit said, luck plays a major role. In hindsight, if you ask me, okay, what helped, I think God's grace and luck. So because that reflected in terms of, many good people joined us very, very early, despite they having a lot of good opportunities. I'm very proud to say many of them are still with us. So there are a lot of significant chunk of employees for whom we need to pay gratuity. So considering we're still a 6-year-old company. So, and also a lot of early customers, while they could afford and they would have gone for a lot of other established brands. So they very genuinely, wholeheartedly, without a reason, encouraged us. So personally and professionally, it's been very, very fulfilling for me.
The team building, getting a right team is also very important, especially in a space which is not cool, if I may say so, right? That you guys are not in, hopefully now you are making it cool, but this is not the sexy, the cool space, but they're getting very good talent, and keeping them along the journey has also played a very crucial role. Yeah. That brings me to the next question, and Jayant, this is alluding to what you said, that they are such big players in the space, in the space that you operate. What does it mean? How does it feel to be competing with SAP, Oracle, who are entrenched in this space, and having a better customer review? What has it taken? How have you done that?
And Shradha, maybe so I think it alludes to where I started, which is I think we were able to, and thinking from first principles, right? I mean, which is the sector could be around for however longer, but ultimately believing that if the employee has to be at the center and building a platform around that, actually, and so the proposition that we took to our customers was compelling, and that combined with execution, I think, is what helped us get here. And you continue to realize that, like you said, the Darwinian theory is that you have to continue evolving. If anything, the pace of change has only gotten accelerated. And if a lot of times companies come back and say that, hey, software is actually holding us back, whereas software has to enable. So unless you change with times, another Darwinbox will come and disrupt you as well. So I think it's important to be very, very agile. It's important to be super close to the ground and continue hearing what the customer has to say. On comparisons, Shradha, and I think we see they're great companies. They've been around for so long. They've survived for that long and thrived for that long, means that they've built amazing brands and machinery that there. So we have a long way to go. In the geographies that we play in, of course, we compete head on head. We are in the top 3. Some years we win, some years they do. But we have a great motion going. And in the 3 geographies that I mentioned that we are in, there's a clear path to leadership. And it is because the focus was on the problem, the focus was on the customer. That is why we've been able to do what we did. But like I said, to get to where they are, they're so large, right? Meaning, look at their brands, look at their scale. So I think so. Lot left to do in the next 5-10 years, right? Meaning going to the US, launching in the West. Important thesis that have to play out for us to become as great as they are.
No, I'm just saying that you've reached here in such a short span of time. What stops you? Hopefully, I'll be interviewing you in a year or 2, and we would be discussing what Rohit said, no, global domination. Why not? Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that brings me to my next question. You're the 18th B2B unicorn since 2018, and last year we saw this phenomenal IPO, NASDAQ listing for Freshworks. We all felt very proud. I want to understand 2 things. What's your roadmap? What's the roadmap, Darwinbox's roadmap, if I have to ask, for the next 12, 24 months? And is IPO in the annual?
Absolutely. I think one, Shradha, like you mentioned, SaaS seems like an amazing opportunity for India. And there is definitely conviction and aspiration that this could be India's next big opportunity for the world, right? Like we had IT services, like we had generic pharma that were globally dominant in. This definitely feels like, and it's a nice convergence of factors that are coming together. Meaning great talent, the ability to sell from anywhere to anywhere, a bunch of things that came together for the perfect storm for SaaS to be successful from India. And importantly, I think now there's also enough success stories, right? So many giants that and role models that you could look up to and say, hey, they've done it. Why can't you? And in fact, my belief is to the extent that, of course, it's going to be a $1 trillion opportunity for India in the next 10 years. And so far we've built companies from here, but I feel the day is not very far away where the SaaS company is getting built anywhere in the world. They'll say, "Arey, we need to have an office in India because, boss, there is that kind of a talent here and that kind of an ecosystem here that I have no option but to set up an office." Not going to be the other way, right? Where entrepreneurs from here are selling to the world. That a SaaS company starting anywhere because of the critical mass of talent in certain segments here is going to be so rich. They'll say, "Boss, we have no option. I'm a SaaS company. I need to have an office in India." I think that dream is also not very far away. I think the next 5, 6 years we will get there. And as far as what next for Darwinbox, and Chaitanya mentioned this beautifully, right? That valuation sometimes is an outcome, which is very tough to control, right? Meaning the market, etc., is very, very tough to have a handle on what is going on. But there are metrics, factors that you have under your control, right? Meaning metrics like, for example, revenue, ARR, net promoter scores, growth YOI. These are things that as a company we can hunker down and focus on. So valuation is outcome, and sometimes it's not under your control. But these are things that we're going to focus on. The ambition, the next 2.5 years, Shradha is to be a $100 million ARR company. We are growing at enough of a pace that seems definitely achievable. And with that, why not an IPO? If it meets every stakeholder's aspirations, an IPO is 2.5 years later, 3 years later, I don't know, but yeah, 100 million milestone ke baad, which is 2025, feels like the right time to go public.
You know, it's incredible to me and to everyone watching. This is a moment I also think on a sociological level, it's such a high impact where today, whatever the micro fundamentals, it's entrepreneurs like you also giving so many young people the belief that kyun nahi, hum kisi se kam nahi. And my next question is that, you know, whenever you look at B2B companies primarily and as SaaS businesses, they all look at West as a market, you know, first stop. And if you're growing, then the market is there. But you guys have done it differently. You've gone to Asia, Southeast Asia, Middle East. Why that? Tell us something. Give us an inside peek into your playbook.
So a little bit of background here, Shradha, that may help, right? So the three of us, I think one thing that was common between the three of us, right? I was at McKinsey doing consulting. Jayant was a banker at EY. Chaitanya was a people advisory consultant at EY. All of us were working with large enterprises as counterparts, right? And that is something that we understood. And this was a problem where a fundamental system of record like HR, right? Like where every employee in the organization uses it, was doing too little or was not solving for the main problems of the organization it is at least set out to solve, right? So, I mean, as a problem, we saw that very evidently in our faces, right? Like we were there working with these customers, understanding this problem, etc. So, I mean, the trigger was almost a naive saying, okay, hey, there is a clear problem to solve. I think we have a better way to approach this, and we'll start off, right? And that's what got us into thinking about Darwinbox, thinking about the product, etc. Right? Market itself is something that we discovered slowly. Of course, a lot of naysayers who said, hey, why do you want to take on like an SAP Oracle? Or why do you want to do Asia as a market? Why don't you just start with the US as a market, right? And this was 2015 where SaaS was not so cool, right? Like, I mean, it just got cool recently, but it was not so cool as well. So that was very commonly heard. But at least for us, I think, right? A lot of companies in this part of the world, at least in Asia, were on on-premise system and were wanting better products. And interestingly, HR is a function which is very culturally influenced, right? If you take a developer tool system or if you take a finance system, the best practices work globally. But you can't take a Western best practice and say, hey, this is best practice for this part of the world because, right, we grew up with certain power distances. We grew up with certain levels of censorship. We grew up with different cultural set in Asia compared to what is there in the Western part of the world. So we wanted to solve for that differently, right? If you take an employee, right, and keeping employee at the center meant today at least 30% of our workforce doesn't even have a laptop who are using Darwinbox, right? Which means every aspect of their life cycle should be done on mobile, right? And if you take a global product, they'll say, hey, do it on web, do it on the laptop, and all the frequent action, do it on mobile. But for example, an investment declaration, which happens once a year, a resignation decision, which happens once in a lifetime in that organization, will not be on their mobile apps. But here there is no choice, right? So that is the only choice. So we have to bring all of that onto mobile, right? So there was clear gaps in the way global products were solving for Asia, where we started off, and we thought we could do better there. And the whole migration from on-prem to cloud, which was something that was imminently happening faster than the rest of the world, while our penetration levels are low here, was something where the opportunity was in our face, right? And that's bringing that two together is where the opportunity opened up. And of course, right, the COVID situation where, I mean, employees were all distributed, people were trying to figure out how to work in this new way of work, how to do the pat on the back without touching the person and like not being around that person, was something which suddenly accelerated that thinking as well. So a lot of sectors which we thought will take some more time to get onto HR technology for their employees and making their experiences better, suddenly started looking at this more seriously and accelerating their digitalization journeys. So that's been the journey, Shradha, where we clearly saw there was an opportunity. The market was also opening up, so we timed it probably right. Right, and that's where we saw a lot more adoption in this part of the world, right? Because we solved specifically for this part of the world as well. We understood the customer here, we solved specifically, and that's where it took off, right? So I think now there is, it's the coming of the Asian age for even B2B software. We think, right, where a lot more companies, a lot more enterprises, a lot more sectors are open for technology from platforms like ours, where they're able to solve for a lot of their needs.
Different things emerging when it comes to workforce, the future of workforce, to how companies are behaving when it comes to employees, because I keep on talking to leaders and nobody seems to have the right answer. It is evolving. But what are some of the things that you're seeing evolve, some of the things that are being discussed?
So maybe I'll take that question. So Shradha, if we keep it at a very, very fundamental level and ask a simple question, so what do people expect from HR function, or in turn from HR technology? What do we need to solve? So the fundamental problem remains the same, whether it is before pandemic or after pandemic, whether it was like in-person working or hybrid working or remote working. So primarily you need to solve for engagement and productivity. One, obviously you need to make people very productive. That is when your company is running. And second, while doing that, people should also be very engaged and happy. So maintaining balance is, as per me, the fundamental requirement or essence of HR function. So this won't change whether at any point of time. So now how you solve this problem, that has become very, very complex and very challenging. So because of this whole pandemic, because earlier everyone used to come to office, you have a certain way you can interact, all that stuff. Now, most stuff is happening remotely. In the future, it may happen hybrid sort of a way. So if you look at a few examples, for example, employee engagement is there. So earlier, you could have simply asked the manager, so how engaged your team is, just rate, who is engaged, who is not engaged, and what are the reasons. And manager could have done that because, he's meeting them on daily basis. So now you can't do that, because there are a lot of managers who wouldn't have even met their team members, because many of them would have joined in a remote sort of environment. So now only way you can solve that problem is, so obviously you need to ask the same question, maybe rather indirectly to employee. So using certain maybe footprint on the system, certain cues on some non-verbal cues, or maybe certain surveys, etc. You need to figure out directly from the employee how engaged he is. If he or she is engaged or not engaged, what would be certain reasons behind that? So now all of a sudden, for your technology also, who you are delivering your product to, who are your end users, it is changing. So I think that is a certain shift that will happen. Fundamental problem remains the same, but who are going to be the users of the technology, who you need to deliver the service. This is going to change. So overall for HR function, there are certain themes that are happening. One, you need to automate to the extent possible, because you can't do things manually anymore, because things are changing at a rapid pace and everything is remote. So second is obviously you need to make everything data driven. So nothing is left for interpretation or perception, because so you're not even getting to meet people. Everything is happening online. So you need to make decisions purely based on solid data. Data is going to be your friend, no one else. So third is there are certain things. Obviously, these things are also, they were thought, or they were spoken a lot before. So for example, take career development. So we always used to say employee is responsible for career development, not HR. People management, we always used to say managers are responsible for people management, not HR. So now there is no option but actually doing these things. So you should ensure people are taking responsibility for their careers. Managers are taking responsibility for managing people. So as a HR, your role is just enabler. So helping them doing that stuff, obviously using technology. I think this is what I would like to say.
But Chaitanya, it's very interesting. Two things again here. That one is the role of HR is evolving, and I think in some way it's becoming more meaningful and more encompassing. And the second thing is that at the same time, the role of HR is getting disintermediated, because now you have to hear the voice of everyone, right? And data is enabling you to do that. Yeah, interesting. Brings me to the question, how are you guys looking at your own company, your own HR, your own culture? You, all three of you seem to be very proud of the team that you've built, the team that has stayed with you. So tell us about the team. And of course, now that you are in this great unicorn position, are you looking at hiring? Are you looking at building, expanding? And I'm assuming this will be decentralized across the country. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Shradha, let me start by saying we use Darwinbox in Darwinbox. And we use it very, very powerfully. The second thing, Shradha, in fact, and this is note that it is coming from a banker, right? And so I was a finance guy through and through before finding purpose and passion at the intersection of technology and people. And if there's one thing that I learned as an entrepreneur, or the three of us learned as entrepreneurs in the last 6 years, is that the most important thing to get right is people and culture, right? That intersection is magic, and everything else follows. The strategy, execution, marketing, sales, everything else follows. But if you get this right, and I think both Chaitanya and Rohit mentioned that the joy of this journey is doing it with the right people. For us, it's been that, right? It's been a joy. And like I said, and it's also been a joy seeing people scale, right? And for example, somebody who started as a finance executive in Darwinbox is a customer success manager handling a team of 20.
Yeah.
And so many people who joined at very, very young, at a very, very early stage, scaling. And that's what you realize, right? That there is joy in scaling people, and which is, I think, something that I've come to sort of enjoy. In terms of hiring plans, I think we are 700 in headcount now. Spanning India, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East. So, and in all these geographies, I think we'll up hiring. So be it in tech product, be it in customer success account manager, be it in sales marketing, every other conceivable function that you can think of. Like I said, we have a heavy sort of next 2.5 years. There is the $100 million milestone that we can see, which is achievable. But everybody has to come, right people have to be in the right roles, and all of this has to come together for that milestone to be met. And so a lot of hiring plans, right, across all functions that you can think of.
As companies scale, as organizations scale, and what you're building scales, how do you scale yourself as your own self? Right? Like all of you come from different backgrounds, and then the journey that you've made, and now the journey that you will make. How do you make sure that you are yourself evolving, scaling, growing, and you're different? Or, you're same, but you're different with the passing time?
For me, there's been two things, Shraddha. Of course, a lot of content, like whether it is reading books or listening to podcasts and learning from mistakes/journeys of folks around the world, right? And this could be like even sportsmen or, right? Like it doesn't have to be the field of SaaS itself or startup itself. That's definitely. And second, we've been lucky to get a good set of advisors/mentors in the journey and who've gone through this journey themselves, right? From Anish, for example, from Capillary, who's gone through this journey for longer than us, or multiple other folks who've and are investors as well, right? For example, Satish or a Dev, who've been entrepreneurs themselves and now VCs and invested in Darwinbox. So their journeys and their learnings from the journeys have definitely helped, right? But I think the biggest part of the accelerated learning has been just being hands-on, right? Like day in and day out, just figuring things out, learning on the go, as well as been an immense learning. I think a lot of joy comes from the fact that if we look back at ourselves 6 years back, at least as individuals, we've evolved a lot. So yeah. I think that that evolution has been very quick.
Rohit, what you're saying is that what you've had consistently, what you guys have had consistently is learner's mindset, right? Like you've been, because many people as they grow, they stop absorbing and they stop taking feedback, but you guys have been very, very open to taking and absorbing and having that learner's mindset. Yeah. Jayant, Chaitanya?
I think, I think similar to what Rohit said, I think the right exposure matters, Shradha. So I think it could be interactions with the right set of people who embody what excellence means in every possible segment, right? So getting that exposure, getting that access, that matters. And apart from that, getting exposed to the right books, learning, getting exposed to all kinds of scenarios. And we've been grateful that every year we've always managed to get the next level of client, right? If we got the kind of client that we did in 2021, in 2017, we would not have been able to, serve them, right? But every year we always got that kind of a client where we had to elevate ourselves to serve them. And by the way, that's also an important opportunity. So getting the right opportunities at the right time is also great way for you to sort of scale. The third is learning to let go. Right, I am a amazing micromanager. I was, right. I think, and the biggest learning, as like I said, and where I find now a lot more joy is scaling people. Wow. So that you can start scaling yourself. Yeah, so scaling people is automatically you scaling yourself. So,
this is the most brilliant, honest, authentic answer I've heard from an entrepreneur. Brilliant. And when you say this with that honesty, then it comes across that you would have made that journey, and today you would be enjoying scaling people. Yeah.
If I add at least maybe a few things from my perspective, one is leveraging a lot of first-hand experiences. So you need to respect that there is nothing more beautiful and helpful than a first-hand experience. So you need to expose yourself to as many such experiences as possible, especially people who had seen a scale higher than what you are seeing today. That is one important thing. And second, at least personally for me, a personal growth or scaling is the output of this entire journey. So wealth, power, titles, and everything, it is actually secondary. So how you are evolving, that is the output of this whole journey. So one thing is obviously, see, we're all human beings. I mean, you would have your egos and like Jayant said, micromanagement, everything at play initially. But I think one transformation every founder goes through at some juncture, maybe sooner or later, is at some point you realize it is really not so much about you. It is about, growing what you started. Yeah. So the minute, you understand, you start taking all the right calls, for growing what you started, or, making it big. Then, you'll be able to hire people better than you, and you wouldn't even probably mind reporting to people, better than you. So that's when, ego shatters. I think that is the transformation that helped all of us. So as per me.
No, Rohit, Jayant, Chaitanya, it has been fantastic talking to three of you. And I wish on behalf of everyone watching and all of us in the startup ecosystem, Young India, that you go on and continue your Darwinism theory and rule and conquer and dominate the world with the humility, the customer centricity, which you guys genuinely embody. All the very best.